When we originally started our firm, I didn't think that we could build an investment thesis around defense only or government only capability. I think I might be wrong with that now. With, the LLM movement and the AI movement is that, hold on a second, these aren't blue collar jobs necessarily. They're white collar jobs that are being disrupted first. I don't think anyone would have predicted that 5 or 10 years ago.
That man came over with a bottle of tequila and basically made me drink it with him because the system saved his life 2 weeks before.
Wow. I mean, I'm still scared to death every time I do pretty much anything. I am uncomfortable doing it, but you have to push yourself to step off and just say, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to give it a shot. Most people don't fail because they tried. They failed because they didn't start. When we invested in and you started Citadel, it was one of those things, it was too early. Now I think the time is definitively right. The question is our government and other national security organizations going to really embrace this at the speed that I think and you think that it should be embraced at?
Why did you invest in Firestorm? This is Dan Meiji, CEO of Firestorm, and this week on the Drone Wars podcast, we have Larsen Jensen, founder of Harpoon Ventures. Larsen and I have known each other for over a decade. He was really the reason why Lightspeed invested in us in 2015 at Citadel. There's not a lot of folks who've carried a gun on the battlefield who are making investment decisions in this space. He's one of them. Larsen, thanks for joining us today.
Dan, good to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's always good to see a buddy.
I know.
A couple San Diego fellas.
It is, man. It's been a long time. We've known each other for almost 10 years now.
I know. And we're still banging our head against the door trying to get into the DoD.
One day we'll figure it out. I think better this time than last, but a lot of progress last time.
Yeah, I know. An exit's an exit, right?
It's true. It's
That's
true.
what they say.
Too bad you got that program of record post-exit.
I know, like 40 days later,
right?
You
could have waited a few more days.
Yeah. You go from a rowboat to a yacht, right?
Exactly.
So Larsen, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Dan. I appreciate it. Really excited to be on the Drone Wars podcast. Really excited to be an investor in Firestorm, to be an investor previously in Citadel.
Baby.
It's been a great journey with you and really couldn't thank you more. But my name's Larsen Jensen. I'm an investor and founder at Harpoon Ventures, an early stage venture capital firm that focuses on investing in dual use technology, which is a big catch-all term.
Yep.
But, I guess by virtue of our heritage and how we got here, I previously worked at Lightspeed and Andreessen Horowitz, saw this gap in the market where as a prior service member, I thought more people should be investing for America.
Yep.
Really the only firm that was out there doing that was InQtel. And they were doing it in a way where they're investing in, essentially enterprise IT and things that were very dual use in nature, which means that they have a large scale commercial market, but also a large scale defense or IC or governmental market opportunity. One thing that many people don't know is that the companies like Palo Alto Networks, CrowdStrike, VMware, Splunk sell hundreds of millions of dollars of their software into the government every single year. And that's just a little known fact that I discovered when I was at Lightspeed.
Right.
And I said, well, what if we focused on that dual use capability, which could be enterprise first, government second, or government first, enterprise second as a thesis, and we invested in those kinds of things.
Yep.
And that's when I came across Citadel and first met you. Where the counter drone space is something that we saw was big and important from a defense standpoint. I still think it's extremely important. It's become more important, as you know.
Totally.
But it's also important in the civilian world. We got to, we got to protect our critical infrastructure. We got to protect our stadiums and things of that nature from this looming threat or risk, depending on how you look at it. And so that's what our firm does.
Yeah.
We're relatively small compared to the big mega funds, $300 million fund. We've been at this for about 8 years or so, and really excited to be in this journey. And it's never a dull moment, that's for sure.
So talk to us a little bit. We'll go into like what you did before you're an investor too, because it's a fun story. But
let's do it.
Talk to us a little bit about like being a first mover in truly like, you guys were like the first defense VC.
Yeah.
Like InQtel doesn't count, right?
Yeah.
How is
because
that?
you can't invest in InQtel.
Yeah.
It's all the money from the government, from the IC and other service branches. A really unique model, but at the end of the day, it's a nonprofit organization that manages this stuff on behalf of the government customers, which is a great mission. And I'm a huge fan of InQtel. They're actually one of our investors, so really lucky to have that attachment and alignment there. But it was nerve wracking. I think it's getting more nerve wracking. And I ask this question back to you in a moment. It was something that I just believed into my core. And I think I had a little bit of a cheat code with the fact that I was previously in the SEAL teams. Mm-hmm. Many of my buddies who were still in at the time were starting to reorient towards the great power competition, meaning, potential conflict with China, starting to get more read in the fact that they're embracing technology at a much faster scale than the United States was.
Yep.
For my limited career in the SEAL teams and my buddies who are currently in, really focused on our deployments to the Middle East, where we had total technology superiority, like without question.
Yep.
Like we were just uncontested, in any regard in that respect. But what Uncle Sam started to recognize is that, the big powers of China, Russia, and others were investing in technology to offset our capability and investing in it and R&Ding it, and we really weren't. And so I found myself in Silicon Valley where this was being the case, where the Defense Innovation Unit was just getting started.
Yep.
Actually probably as soon as I moved to Silicon Valley the same year, 2015, is when DIU was started. Yeah. And it just so happened that right time, right place for me to be a prior service member who cares about our country, and that there's this big reawakening of the government to focus on technology, that I felt like this is the right time to do something about it. That said, you really, as they always say, it's the same thing as being too early as being wrong. And the big bet was, are we too early? Yeah. Because that's indistinguishable from being wrong.
Totally.
And I think I never would have predicted that we are where we are today. I can criticize some of the means by which we got here, but at the end of the day, I'm really happy that we are here as a country, as a technology ecosystem, that we've got brilliant entrepreneurs like you and your team focusing on solving these problems. Plenty of other investors, including us and many others, who are investing in this space, and a defense acquisition system that is slowly but surely modernizing and reforming to buy things like this, that could actually give us, a critical national security edge over our potential adversaries, and most importantly, a deterrence from any conflict at all.
So let's unpack that. That's a couple things there. First is acquisition reform.
Yeah.
Do you tell your portcos, oh, it's going to happen, or it's like, nope, here are the rules, right? Yeah. Let's play within the rules, and if it happens, then we're stoked.
It depends on the company, and which is maybe a little bit of a cop out, but typically what we've learned is just doubling down on what's working, right? Finding that first niche, doubling down on that. And so many times as an early stage company, you have to go horizontal before and very broad before you go narrow. And then you go wide again after you've actually established product market fit in terms of your initial customer base. So I think it depends. I think the most important thing is to go into this ecosystem both eyes wide open. There's a lot of newer programs that do help companies break into defense, whereas previously these things didn't exist when we started Harpoon, and certainly not when I was at our other firms. DIU really wasn't as robust as it is now. AFWorks it didn't even exist.
Right.
Plenty of other things didn't exist. But that said, one of the big things that I observed at the time is we'd meet great founders who were so hyper confident that they were going to create a new market opportunity, meaning there was no existing budget for whatever they were building, a cybersecurity product, whatever. There's no existing budget for whatever product they were making. And they were 100% confident they were going to build a new market opportunity. Yeah. There's plenty of those over time, Uber, Airbnb, et cetera. Like there was no market for that. They had to really recreate a new one in a unique way. But they just would throw up their hands almost in preemptive defeat from going into the government market and going into the DoD market. And I'm like, well, they spend, this year almost $1 trillion on defense.
Yep.
You're telling me that you can't get any of that? Like it just seemed like a cognitive disconnect to me, that people would just preemptively say it's too hard and not even try. At that point in time, nobody was really trying because they thought it was too complicated and too hard. There is some truth to that. It is borderline too complicated and too hard. But now I think the front door for innovation is more open than it's ever been. It might be wide open as far as I'm concerned. It might be too open in terms of the things that can come in that aren't quite ready.
Yeah.
The real hard part is then not only getting your first deal, but how do you sort of expand that into your next deal? And how do you ultimately find a program to adopt whatever technology that you're building? And that takes a lot of work. It's a fundamentally different sales motion than any other market that I've been a part of. In the enterprise market, typically, if you help people save money or make more money or be 10x more secure, so on and so forth, they're going to buy it. There's sort of this capitalist incentive to do so. And if you're 10x better than an incumbent in the space, on a price performance paradigm, there's going to be an incentive to switch. In the defense space, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if you're 10x better.
Yep.
That will not change what...
Best product does not win.
Best product does not win. And that's the hardest thing for anybody, an investor, a founder, employees to grapple with.
Yeah.
If you go out there and you go head to head with an incumbent and you smoke them, it pretty much doesn't matter unless you have a clear and easy way for the government to get to you, meaning to buy and put you on contract and to pay you. That ease of contracting is, I think, one of the biggest encumbrance that I've seen in the space for startups getting on contracts. We really need to solve that. It's almost more important to solve that more than it is to solve for product, which is just very, 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 very different than what most technology founders think.
Do you think Hegseth's going to be able to pull this off and make some, maybe not 100% reforms, but some structural reforms to how we buy and what we focus on?
My opinion is if we don't pull it off now, we're never going to pull it off. Okay. And maybe that's sort of like a glass half full mentality to have. But I don't think we've ever had, at least in my lifetime, this geopolitical catalyst of a global national security challenge in multiple theaters, paired with a technology catalyst, drones being a large part of that, paired with AI, physical AI meeting, hardware systems. That's happening right now. Right now, if you look up in the Bay Area, Waymo has captured, basically is at market share parity with Uber and Lyft, fully autonomous. The future is here.
And it happened in months.
Incredible. The future is here. It's just not evenly distributed yet.
Right.
The same thing with the conflict in Ukraine and to a lesser extent, the conflict, in Israel. The future is here. It's just not evenly distributed yet. Right. And so I think it takes founders like you and others to really be those, visionaries, but also to identify where the future is here. It's just not scaled yet. And to actually, influence that vision on the United States. And I think it takes visionaries like the ones that we have in the current administration, whether it be Hegseth and others, Undersecretary Feinberg, all these other folks who really, I think, understand that the future is different than the past in many ways. It rhymes, but there's a lot of things that are changing. We can't completely throw out some of our force protection strategies. I think those are, a critical deterrence for us. But there is a new future that's coming that I think, leads to greater deterrence and greater effectiveness. And so if it doesn't happen over these next 4 years, I really couldn't tell you when it's going to happen.
Do you, I like to call 2015 when we met as kind of defense tech 1.0, right?
Correct,
kind of like DIU 1.0 or even counter UAS 1.0, like the Citadels, the Sky Safes, the drone shields. We've all been around for 10 years at this point, right? So
Teal, Skydio, and a couple have made it out through there and, in a significant way. Shield AI started basically the same time frame.
Yep.
There's...
What's different this time? Is it the kids?
Yeah, I think
you and I are 40, but so we call them kids.
Yeah, totally. Turned 40 this year, man. I'm gray. I hurt.
Don't say that, please.
I know. But I think if I look through the ecosystem, when we originally started our firm, I didn't think that we could build an investment thesis around defense only or government only capability. Mm-hmm. I think I might be wrong with that now.
Okay.
Because of the quality of the talent and the founders that are opting into this market.
Right.
Back then, we listed maybe everybody. At Ian at Origin, you're now co-founder. Yep. There wasn't that many. You can count them on probably two hands.
Right.
The founders that were really opting into the space.
Yeah.
At all. And raising money. Let's just say $10 million.
Yep.
A dozen. Now how many are there? And that, could be a critique of the ecosystem that's being overinvested in. But I don't think it necessarily is, just because the quality of the founders that are opting in is essentially what the quality of the founders were then, just that we're opting into mobile apps and Snapchat-like things. You just now have those brilliant kids opting into defense, which I think is a significant cultural change, which gives me a lot of optimism for the future of our country and the future of our defense.
Yeah, I mean, hardware is hard, right?
Yeah.
It takes time, but once it's up and running, tends to be really, really sticky.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? How much is like, Chat GPT, OpenAI, kind of killing some of these SaaS companies? I mean, is that part of the investor thesis too? It's harder to find and build a scalable software company. So we got to look for more like hard tech, deep tech. I mean, real estate tech is now having a huge boom too.
I don't know. There's just something to having a physical product.
Yeah.
If you come to our annual, general meeting where we bring our investors and our LPs, we have some great software and AI companies. We're very fortunate to work with them.
Yeah.
But when they show a demo to the, normal average investor that's not in technology every day, they do other things too. Like technology and venture is 10% of their book, right? It's part of what they do. And they show a demo. People don't get that excited until they see the revenue, the hockey stick.
Sure.
That's what they see. They see the revenue and they're like, oh, this is great. We love it. They don't really care about the product as much. You come in, you show the videos of what you're doing.
Yeah.
People are like, they don't even ask for the revenue. They're just excited because it's so cool. They see self-flying planes, self-driving trucks, drones all synchronized together, operating in swarms, deterring our adversaries. Like, you don't need to really, it just sells itself, in my opinion, in terms of the excitement.
Yeah.
And I think that's more broadly what's going on now, is people are wanting to work on things that are exciting. I think Elon might be singularly responsible for this entire phenomenon. Because how many companies has he built where physical goods, physical things, huge margins, some of the largest companies, certainly private, that have ever been created. It's really remarkable at the end of the day. And whereas 10 years ago in the Valley and in venture, people was like, oh, it's a hardware company, it's default low margin. Now it's like, well, we just missed all of the biggest outcomes that possibly could have been created.
But even 10 years ago, like, Apple was up there, and 100%. And everyone missed that. They're like, oh wow, they have monopolized phones.
Yep,
literally.
Yep, literally. But it's not enough to just have a hardware product. You need to have the software enablement. Software enablement. Now the AI enablement. And I am a big believer in the promise of AI and everything that it's doing. It does seem like this is the next category shift. But AI intersecting with hardware systems, whether that be for manufacturing, whether that be for autonomous flight or driving, or you sort of name it. Like there's so many exciting things that are happening, and I think that we potentially in our lifetime could live in a world of abundance where energy is nearly free if we get our act together and embrace nuclear. Like we should do that. Like that will lead to more abundance and more people who are out of poverty, not just in our country but around the entire world. Maybe it's fanciful to think, but if you watch like the Star Trek series, like they have no concept of need or want. They're a hyper tech enabled and hyper enlightened. Doesn't mean there's not conflict still. We're all humans and what have you. But I think that in our lifetime, we could be in a situation like that, powered by technology to create a brighter future. And that's really exciting to me. And, it may not happen, but I think it's something that should get us out of bed every morning to try and do.
A nice goal to aim for. Yeah, I totally agree. I think, there's going to probably be some structural changes here that happen in our society because a lot of white collar jobs are getting automated away.
Yeah, who would have thought with the whole automation thing? Like, it's always been a critique of the blue collar jobs. Like everyone's thinking like, oh, like whatever, all the way from the cotton gin to forward to mass manufacturing is like, hey, this is going to be disrupting blue collar jobs. And I think one of the interesting things that's happened with the LLM movement and the AI movement is that, hold on a second, these aren't blue collar jobs necessarily. They're white collar jobs that are being disrupted first. I don't think anyone would have predicted that 5 or 10 years ago. I think they would have assumed that it's like truck drivers and what have you, and other things like that maybe. But now it's like the designers, the lawyers, the accountants, all of that stuff, the investment banks. Like, do you really need as many traditional analysts and associates as you previously did when you now have these high horsepower AI systems that can build these pitch decks with a higher level of quality, build all these models, like these financial models with a higher level of quality and accuracy, taking in more data from around the world at a click of a button? You know, I think those jobs are the ones that might be the ones that are modernized first, which is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say this, Dad, if you're listening, aren't you glad I'm not a lawyer? No, but I mean, we use tools every single day that a couple years ago would require us to spend either thousands of dollars a month or have increased headcount. But if you're not doing that stuff now, you're not going to be competitive with what everyone else is doing. Yeah, we were talking to a big prime. They're really good at writing contracts. They've told us they've fed every contract they've written over the last, 3-4 decades into one of these LLMs. And it's spitting out stuff now, like when they write a new contract, that's 95% as good.
Wow.
Right?
And these are contracts which, for people that, I imagine much of the audience, understands this ecosystem at a very, very deep level, maybe deeper than me. But writing these RFPs takes forever, man. Like, that's how we got our start as a venture firm, is like, hey, we're going to help you. We're going to actually even do these things for you to help give you leverage in your time, keep you focused on talking to the customer, building your product, raising money. And there's so much blocking and tackling that most founders, as they break into the space, aren't, ready to dedicate that amount of time. And so we built out a team that would actually service that and do that, in conjunction with our founders to hopefully help them save time and be more successful more quickly. And what a pain. So I've lived it. Business development is one thing. That's almost the easy thing. Wining and dining, going to conferences, meeting people, going to program offices, all that stuff. That's easy and pretty fun. The hard part is where the rubber meets the road, and just like drafting all of these things, making sure they're accurate. Do you know how many times I've seen like where I've literally made the mistake myself where I didn't format the document with the right margins? Somehow there was a glitch or I screwed up and it wasn't a 1.5 inch margin or whatever it's supposed to be. It was like a 1 inch margin, disqualified, which is something that I would say is a critique on the acquisition system in the first place. Is like, literally, if that's the thing that disqualifies you from getting the 10x advantage over the enemy, the font size, and if it's not Times New Roman, they're disqualified. That's the thing that's really going to disqualify you. I think that's ridiculous. So hopefully the Doge fixes things like that, in my opinion. But on the other hand, now you don't need to worry about those clerical mistakes where maybe you forgot to number a page and it's done. It is a huge
for the
advantage.
audience. That was a Citadel contract he messed up. So
it wasn't, but It could have been.
No, I mean, but I just had a conversation with the people asking, as a small company, tell me your experience with the SBIR process. And, they're trying to decide how much to fund or defund on that whole thing. And I explained how, like, if you could solve some of the administrative things associated with these projects, you could probably keep the same amount of money going to the companies, but actually cut the budget in a way if you could make things more efficient.
Totally.
And I'm hearing that across the board, not just for defense, but health tech, ag tech, you name it. You know what I mean? Like the hoops we have to go through on some of these things, the admin burden is just like, we don't need it. Right? We can be more efficient.
We can.
So I hope you're listening, Doge. All right.
We should tag them on X after this.
We will.
Thanks for listening to the Drone Wars podcast. Each week, we bring you fascinating conversations with leaders shaping the future of air, sea, land, and space technologies. Catch new episodes wherever podcasts can be found. Until then, we'll see you next time.